Your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe
that you are being used as a pawn by the right.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and back to another video. So today we're going to be watching, unfortunately, and I'm so sorry ahead of time, I really am, but I'm going to force you guys to watch The View with me. I know, just one clip of The View. They did a segment last week interviewing somebody by the name of Coleman Hughes, who I'm not that familiar with, but in the last couple of days, I've heard some things about him. So apparently he is a black author who is critical of the whole racial movement that's happening where people are unapologetically being discriminatory and prejudiced against white people as a way to uplift people of color or black people. And he went on The View, I guess, to give his thoughts, his opinions, and they were not happy. So we're gonna watch this clip together. We're going to analyze it. Now, fair warning, because of copyright, I have to be creative with how I show the clips of The View. So the screen is going to be smaller and I'm gonna have to make some effects on the video itself so that I don't get copyrighted. So I do apologize, but I will have a full link in my description of the actual video if you wanna watch it directly and then come back and watch my reaction, whatever you wanna do. Just giving you guys a fair warning. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's watch. Here we go.
First question that I should ask you to do is explain to folks what you mean by this. Arguments for a colorblind America. What do you mean when you say that?
So a lot of people equate colorblindness to I don't see race or to pretending not to see race. I think that's a big mistake. We all see race, right? And we're all capable of being racially biased, so we should all be self-aware to that possibility. My argument is not for that. My argument is that we should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy. Of course. And the reason I wrote this book, thank you. The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything, right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism, and that's why I wrote this book at this time.
Can I just point out that there is a reason for that? You know, when I went to school, getting any information about anyone's race was not taught. No history, there was no black history. None of those things were taught. And here in America, 100 years ago when I was young.
I'm sorry, that's bullcrap. That's bullcrap. Black history has always been taught in this country. In fact, it is against the law not to teach black history in this country. So this liberal narrative that black history is not being taught is just nonsense. Now, I know Whoopi Goldberg is a much older woman in her 60s. So when she was a kid, it was around the 1960s. So I'm sure she wasn't learning about segregation because it was still happening at that time, so I get that. But slavery was taught, and since then, so much more information has come forward, so much more history has been taught in history books, and I'm just tired of this false narrative that liberals constantly push that conservative states want to ban black history, that in Florida, black history is not being taught. That is a lie. That is a full-fledged lie. And like I said, it is against the law not to teach black history in any curriculum in the United States of America. But if you watch this trash show, you may think that states like Florida and Texas just merely are not talking about black people at all. And that's just false. I just had to say that because I know they're going to push that narrative in this entire segment, especially Sunny. And so I want to just put it out there that black history is indeed being taught. Now, what's not being taught in elementary schools, in junior high schools, and in high school is critical race theory, which is entirely different than black history.
That's how people saw you. That's how they judged you. So I think I don't want to say it's your youth, but I think you have a point, but I think you have to also take into consideration what people have lived through in order to understand why there has been such a pointing of very specific racial things. Like women couldn't get into colleges. If you were a black person, there are a lot of colleges where
Oh, Lord, here we go.
trying to equal the playing field. I think that's what a lot of folks have been trying to do.
Question, she brought up his age, right? And she's like, oh, I'm not gonna blame your youth, but then she proceeds to blame his youth. If he came on the show and he was a raging liberal and he believed in critical race theory and he mimicked the liberal talking points, I wonder if she would be questioning his youth. I wonder if she would be questioning if he should have such a stance at such a young age. And maybe he needs to live more of life. I wonder. I think you and I both know the answer to that. Your youth only gets questioned and your credibility only gets questioned when you are a conservative or you have conservative views or conservative viewpoints that are not in line with liberal ideology.
I think that's your experience, and that's valid. You know, as a counterpoint, when I was in 5th grade, we all watched Roots together.
Thank you.
In public school.
Yeah.
So these are different experiences. I think it's also different generations. It's different parts of the country, right? We have very different cultures all living together in one country. So I'm not going to deny that. But I view this notion of a colorblind society similar to the idea of a peaceful society, which is to say it's an ideal. It's a North Star. And the point is not that we're ever going to get there. We're not going to touch it. But we have to know when we're going forward and when we're going backwards. And we're going backwards when we're doing woke kindergarten in San Francisco.
Yes.
With you didn't hear about the story?
No, you know, but
Yeah, Whoopi's like, no, move on. Because she knows that what he's going to say is going to completely stomp on her ridiculous argument. So she's like, no, move on. I don't need to know about woke kindergarten. I'm good. Of course you are.
That address socioeconomic differences would be better at benefiting disadvantaged groups, and that race-based policies often hurt the very people they're trying to help. What are some examples of policies that would be better at reducing racial disparities?
So my overall argument is that class, socioeconomics, is a better proxy for disadvantage. We all want to help the disadvantaged. The question is, how do we identify them, right? The default right now in a lot of areas of policy is to use
Race.
Black and Hispanic identity as a proxy for disadvantage. And my argument is that you actually get a better picture of who needs help by looking at socioeconomics and income. That picks out people in a more accurate way.
Yeah.
My question, but
And the reason why they won't do that, as far as the left, is because majority of people who are poor in this country happen to be white. So, yeah, that kind of ruins the whole racial argument, right? So let's not even talk about class. Let's just talk about race. Race. That's it.
when you say that socioeconomics picks out people in a better way than race, when you do look at the socioeconomics, you see the huge disparity between white households and black households. You see the huge disparity between white households and Hispanic households. So your argument, and I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance, your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed.
Well, it's two separate questions. One
She's so
is
pompous.
whether each racial group is socioeconomically the same. I agree with you. They're not.
Yeah, they're not, and the stats show that.
Yeah, of course, I agree with that fully. The question is, how do you address that in a way that actually targets poverty the best?
Great.
And what Martin Luther King wrote in his book Why We Can't Wait is he called it, we need a Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged. And he said, yes, we should address racial inequality. Yes, we should address the legacy of slavery. But the way to do that is on the basis of class. And that will disproportionately target blacks and Hispanics because they're disproportionately poor, but it will be doing so in a way that also helps the white poor, in a way that addresses poverty as the thing to be
That
addressed.
part is true.
Yeah, of course it is.
As you are a student of Dr. King, I'm not only a student of Dr. King, I know his daughter, Bernice, right? So I'm going to...
I can't with this lady. I just can't. It's like, let me try to one-up him so I can make my argument, my emotionally based argument that isn't founded on facts, right, or data. Of course not. So let me just one-up him by saying, like,
Oh, I know Martin Luther King too, and in fact, I know his daughter.
okay, want a cookie? What does it have to do with what he's stating? Nothing. I can't stand this lady. I cannot stand this lady. Lord help me.
question. Go right ahead. I think the premise is fundamentally flawed. You claim that color blindness was the goal of the civil rights movement, based upon Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech. Content of character versus the color of skin. Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, points out that 4 years after giving that speech, actually, Dr. King also said this: a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations. And so your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community,
Here we go.
being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you were being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts. So how do you... You said that you're a conservative. No, you didn't. You actually said that...
Oh, here we go.
2 weeks ago.
I said I was a
He's
conservative.
not. Yes, you did. So, but my question to you is, how do you respond to those critics?
Now she's gonna tell him what he is.
First thing I think it's very important. The quote that you just pointed out about doing something special for the Negro, that's from the book Why We Can't Wait that I just mentioned.
Yes.
A couple paragraphs later, he lays out exactly what that something special was. And it was the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged, a broad class-based policy.
But he also says it must include race.
No, he didn't. He says
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, everyone should go read the book Why We Can't Wait. Let's not get sidetracked by that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here.
Mic drop.
And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me. With
It's
no
not about you,
evidence
but
that I've been
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted.
You mean your criticism?
Independent podcast. I work for CNN as an analyst. I write for the Free Press. I'm independent in all of these endeavors, and no one is paying me to say what I'm saying. I'm saying it because I feel it.
Alyssa.
Oh Lord, like it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for Sunny Hostin because every single time any type of conversation comes up regarding race and regarding data and facts and statistics and things that don't have to do with emotions, Sunny Hostin loses her ever-loving mind. She can't function. She can't compute. She's like, I don't understand. And again, isn't it funny that the woman who has direct ancestors, more than anybody at that table, she's the one that has direct ancestors who owned slaves.
My family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So
I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life.
Yes. It's been revealed that her family, who came from Spain, owned slaves. But she wants to talk about reparations. If we're talking about reparations, I'm going to need you to step front in line and start paying the bill. How about that? I love his response. I love the fact that he's like, no, actually, I never said I was a Republican. I think I know exactly what I am, and I know what I'm standing for. So how about I answer the question so you can shut up? How about that? And her way of trying to stop him from speaking is by saying, I'm giving you a chance to speak. And even her co-hosts were like, well, then let him speak. Let him actually respond because you're talking over him right now. And then, of course, she uses the argument, well, I'm just letting you respond to what the critics are saying. Well, the critics also say that you're a jackass. Shall every person who comes on the show address that to you? Hey, Sunny, I heard you're a jackass. Want to respond? Just want to give you the chance to respond. Like, who does that? Obviously, he knows he's going to get criticism from the left, from people like Sunny Hostin. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And I love how when he brings up the same book that she was trying to misquote and he corrects her, she tries to some way or somehow work around that, right? Like, oh yeah, but he also said race. He said race though. Okay, well, what's the context? Bring it back to context. See, when context is brought into the equation, people like Sunny Hostin cannot defend. They cannot argue. So they go to emotion. They go to name calling. You're just a pawn. You're just a token. You're being used. Like, what an insult to him. The fact that first you have Whoopi Goldberg saying that he's too young to understand anything, right? And then you have Sunny Hostin saying, oh, your views are only being pushed because you're a token. So in other words, he's not intelligent. He doesn't have his own mind. He doesn't have his own will. He hasn't been educated. He pretty much is weak and is a pawn. And that's it. That's all that he is. Because God forbid a black person in this country has a different perspective on race than the extremists that we see on the left. God forbid.
Coleman, thanks for being here. So in the past decade, it feels like racial tensions have gotten worse. Do you see it that way, and what do you attribute it to?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at all the data, it finds that race relations were getting better until about 2013. That year, you had majority of black, Hispanic, and white Americans saying race relations were good. And then you just see it nosedive. And 2013, people like to blame Republicans.
Including Whoopi Goldberg, because she was on The View years back around that same time, and she said throughout her own mouth that America is not a racist country. In fact, I got the clip for you.
We've always been black. We don't think about it. It just is.
Talk about racism, you have to understand that it's systemic, though, Whoopi. It is
But you guys need to know what real racism is. You need to know what racism is. Racism is when somebody comes up dying. That's racism. I've been black for 60 years. Okay? I've been black for 60 years. Yeah. For me, stupidity. There are dumb folks who just say dumb stuff because they're not looking or paying attention to the person they're talking to, which is why people can walk up to Obama and not look up at him. The lady walked up and said because she's a Hispanic woman, or because she just assumed that all Hispanic people who are in there can't afford to be there. Is it ridiculousness or is it racist?
It's racist.
See, I don't see it. I just see it as stupid. Which is why I say it's not racist, but America is not just a racist country, because there are white people who get it. There are white people who look up and say, honey, this I know. But that is why I will not accept the blanket statement that America is racist. I don't agree. I'm sorry. And keep your tweets to yourself.
Whoopi Goldberg told Andy Cohen how we can start tackling systemic racism.
Racism is in the heart of the country. It just, you can't get away from it.
Funny how things have changed for Whoopi Goldberg.
Like to blame Obama. It wasn't his fault. Democrats like to blame Trump. It was actually just technology. We all got social media and smartphones, and we had videos being promoted in the algorithm that were unrepresentative, and it created this impression that racism was on the rise when in fact it had been on the decline for decades.
And do you attribute that at all to foreign actors getting involved in technology?
Yes, Russia tries to meddle, absolutely, but I don't think we can blame foreign actors. This is a homegrown problem.
Okay, I have a question. Because you're right that the anti-racism movement, there are a couple of people, I don't even know who they are,
maybe
Robin DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo,
Yeah.
Ibram Kendi, for instance.
Okay. Well, you say that is just another form of racism, and you even say there's a lot in common with white supremacy. How can you compare those two things? You're talking about anti-racism, you're comparing it to white supremacy.
Because they both view your race as an extremely significant part of who you are. So white supremacists, they obviously say, we all know what they say, okay? Neo-racists like Rob DiAngelo, they say that to be white is to be ignorant, for example. Well, this is a racial stereotype, and I want to call a spade and say this is not the style of anti-racism we have to be teaching our kids. We should be teaching them that your race is not a significant feature of who you are. Who you are is your character and your value, and your skin color doesn't say anything about that.
Hello.
Presenting what Robin DiAngelo's position
It's in her book.
So here we go. Thank you, Coleman Hughes, for coming. Because this is a show of lots of different opinions, and we are multi-generational, and we all got an opinion.
I can't. I just can't with this show. I just can't. Notice how they ask him a question, right? He gives a very compelling answer, and rather than expanding on that answer or having a discussion regarding what he just said, thanks for coming, gotta go. It's like immediately, let's push him out of here, please, because we can't answer what he's saying. We can't really argue what he just said because it makes sense and doesn't fit our narrative. So let's get him the F out of here ASAP. I guarantee you producers were in her ear saying, go to break, end the segment, go to break. You know they were. Losing their ever-loving minds, wanting to push him out of there. Because we can't have a black man making sense talking about race and saying that we should not be judging people by the color of their skin, and we shouldn't be judging white people as a whole and saying that being white means being ignorant, because that is a stereotype. And I love how Joy, the white savior liberal, is sitting there as he is telling her that just because you're white doesn't mean you're ignorant, and she's sitting there looking confused. Like, I don't know what to say. Don't cancel me. I swear. It's just getting harder and harder sometimes to try and understand the perspective of the left. And I used to be on the left. Thank God I wasn't that bad when I was on the left, but I used to watch The View, so clearly I was bad enough. And it just blows my mind, like how you have to literally check critical thinking at the door if you want to be on The View or you want to be on the left. Like, you have to literally just say, put statistics and data and common sense to the side, and let's just talk about emotions and feelings, because that's all that really drives the conversation, and that is what's going to help us push our narrative. And when somebody like this young man comes on and throws facts at you and data at you and common sense at you, they can't really combat it. They just can't. It's like
Commercial break.
Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this video. I commend this young man. I don't really know much about him, but I definitely am going to do some research and may even buy this book, because I like the fact that he is speaking facts and he's checking his emotions at the door. I love it. And we need more people like him. Independent thinkers. True independent thinkers who aren't partisan. It's not about being Republican or Democrat, but are just speaking common sense. How about we just go back to common sense? Can we do that? People like Sunny Hostin, they can't do that. Because then what platform would she have? If it isn't about race, she can't exist. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. Until next time, peace.